Yes, yes, yes. It's a Castworthy podcast, and we are back. Two-man crew waiting on the third come through. It is Sunday, June 29th. Fucking summer is speeding by. Well, I
Wow.
guess for up there, summer probably just kind of started, right?
Yep.
For us, it'd be feeling like summer starts in well, school ends super early down here, like early May. So, that's kind of like summertime. But summer is blowing by. It's about to be the 4th of July already. Next thing you know, Thanksgiving gonna be right around the corner. It's gonna be go time. Got to get to football season though. Football season is about 69, 70 days away, give or take. Kick off.
Well, August to me is football season. The
True.
preseason stuff and college football kicks off, for some early games. So I'm waiting for August, man.
When does camp kick off? When does training camp start?
It's gotta be late July because the first week of football is September 7th.
Okay, so it's coming. It's coming. We've been gone a little hiatus. Father's Day and all that happened. You do anything fun for Father's Day?
I did. Um, Went out, had a bunch of gifts from the kids and the old lady. And yeah, went out, man, and just hung out and kicked it.
Some brunch type stuff, or just like chilling around the
Yeah,
spot?
yeah,
Around the-
brunch, yeah, for sure.
Okay,
Good brunch, good brunch stuff.
nice.
All a blur now.
Not too much on my side. Pretty light, relaxing, chilling. It's been hot down here. It's been like ridiculously hot, hundreds and all of that, close to hundreds. So
Jesus Christ.
inside weather, pool weather, and all that good stuff. Trying to stay hydrated and not heat stroked. Pause.
Yeah. How hot is it down there right now?
Oh shit! It's been high 90s all week. We're probably in the 80s already
Jesus.
this morning. We wake up in the 80s, so you already know what that looks like. Um, but yeah, just kind of chilled around the crib, chilled with the kid. Um, wifey's still not too mobile. She blew a tire and shit. Uh, Broke a bone in her foot, so we kind of been fairly stagnant this summer, but it's coming to an end. It's about to heal up, which means we're about to be on the move, and I have no control over that. So,
Getting going.
um, yeah, I got no say in that. But yeah, we're about to see what's up. Any plans for 4th of July?
So 4th of July will make a year that me and the old lady have been together. So we're probably,
Oh,
yeah, we're definitely probably gonna do dinner for sure. But 4th of July up here gets crazy. So um, I don't want to do too much.
I can imagine. It's small up there. 4th of July probably be popping.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
oh yeah,
I don't know if we want to I don't know if I want to be outside anyway for the 4th of July. Like, it's just a lot going on, man. Like, there's so much like hate in the streets, and then when you get past the hate in the streets, then you got like the uncertainty of whether or not like we know what's really going on with the whole Iran Israel conflict. Like, is there? I'm gonna keep it light this year. Really stay
yeah,
local. Maybe hit worst case, maybe hit a hotel or something. I don't think I want to do any big fireworks fucking shows or nothing like that.
yeah. I mean we've been feeling this way. I feel like this was just yesterday, and I know you kind of talking about it, foreshadowing. You mentioned it earlier. Saying, hey, do we really want to do anything for the fourth with everything going on? That was earlier this year, and I remember us having that feeling his last term. But I just, at this point in time, it's kind of like, what are we gonna do? I was telling someone the other day. I think black folks are more upset at anything because we 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 lied to ourselves, believing that this country was as progressive as we wanted it to be,
Hmm.
and it hasn't been. And we talking about Israel and Iran. sure, Donald Trump is the regime now, and he's doing a lot of other things that are trash. But what regime or what presidency or what what figurehead before him has really put Israel in check so far? You know, this is something that's been going on our entire lifetime, and it's just now I feel like the best thing he probably has done, in my opinion, if anything, is just really expose how corrupt our government has been through president after president after president after president. It's just that this time he's doing the things that he wants to do. He's not hiding it. He's unapologetic, and he's pissing people off.
Yeah, what else is new? What else is new? Um, yeah, I guess like I don't know, like if it was 8 years of window dressing that we got with Obama, you know what I mean? Like I think they gave us 8 years of window dressing. Like, yo, we're progressive as a nation. You know what I mean? We're ready for black presidents. We're ready for, moving forward with for black people in general, right? And through his presidency, I think a lot of us benefited, but not specifically by anything that was directed towards us. I think it was just stuff that we were able to take advantage of that was designed for everybody. You wish that every president approached things that way, right? Design stuff for everybody versus just one class of people or one group of people. But it just isn't that way. We haven't seen it historically. And today we're clearly as far away from that as probably ever before. Um, and so, we'll see what the current state is going to look like. And I mean, we're still only less than 9 months in. Like, there's people that got pregnant before Trump got in office and they still pregnant. And we've gone through a potential World War III. We got people getting thrown out the country. We just lost birthright citizenship, or we about to lose birthright. Maybe not, because that's a constitution change. It's going to take a pretty large vote. So we probably might we might win that, but that's the big piece. Like that goes away. Oh, I think Puerto Ricans is next. So
Oh, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
yeah, y'all play
It's a
that
wrap.
game if y'all want.
It's a wrap.
He dodged the war, allegedly, right? That draft dodger dodged the war. Um, allegedly, we're being told. What do you think of that whole situation? What do you think of that whole situation with the Israel, Iran, the bombing? Like, what's your take? Because I have a take, and I know if VP was here, he'd probably call me crazy, and maybe he will be here by the time I give my side.
Yeah, I mean, and I wanted to clarify what I was saying prior about the other presidency. Speaking from a black perspective is strictly where I was coming from. I'm sure other minority groups can say they benefited under other presidents, right? But
Hmm.
when you look at it, we to this day we haven't, as black people, we haven't received anything for the slavery and the crimes that were committed against our people. You know, so I just, no matter who's been in office, I don't see what they have done for me. But to your other point,
And I
I
don't think
mean,
we will before you move on, because I think
I
that's
don't think we
important.
ever will. No, I don't think we ever will.
Especially now that they're trying to remove that history, right? They're
Yeah.
basically saying, think about it. Our kids were probably or your kids. My kid is 7, but your kid, oldest, is probably the last generation that really used a book at some point in schooling, and now everything for the most part is digital. And they have control over what's shown digitally. They are controlling the information that's being presented to these kids. So once they erase it, right? Once people, and I think that's the goal, erase it so that people are not talking about it. So these kids are not talking about it 10, 20 years from now, when these kids are old enough to be in a position of power, then they won't be talking about reparations. They won't be talking about making it right for black people. They won't be talking about how we were treated. They won't be talking about Oklahoma. They won't be talking about any of that. You know what I mean? It'll be just America the Beautiful, and so only history we'll know will be the president.
Yeah, and we've said that 1,000 times on this pod. I mean, Barry definitely beat the drum for that. And going back to Obama, like you said, he didn't do anything for us specifically, but we felt better, right? And like me and you always talk about, it's feel good politics. And when people feel good, they don't worry about the small details. And that's what we constantly try to tell VP. No one's trying to figure out the the inner workings of all these things. Yeah, we should, but people want to feel good. They want to feel like they're getting something. They want to feel like they're in a good position. And black people have never felt that way in this country. We lied to ourselves because we've been up and we've got millionaires and we do our thing here and there, but truth be told, we never been really up. But to the Israel Iran thing, Trump has a bunch of idiots in his cabinet with no traditional political experience or any experience at all to be doing things. So the diplomacy is all messed up. But I mean, at the end of the day, this all falls into the web of America helping and being controlled by Israel for years. We shouldn't even be remotely in this situation, regardless of who the president is. But for the last 40 to 50, maybe 60 years, we have been in bed with these people. And it seems like when you look at everything that's going on, Joe Biden just left office and sold them $20 million worth of weaponry. Mind you, we were already giving them millions of dollars anyway for defense and whatever else they want to use it for. Yet they've been committing war crimes for ages now, and no
Mhm.
one has checked these people. So, Trump, yeah, being an idiot, having a horrible staff, having a horrible plan, all of that is just making the situation worse as we've been in bed with these people for decades now, and we shouldn't be.
Yeah, I think we've to your point, we have been in bed. We've had people that have been trying to keep the peace and people that misinterpreted the Bible, right? And how someone mentioned, you know, Israel, but not specifically Israel, the country, or Israeli people, right? Like the misinterpretation of the Bible has turned into we have to protect Israel in many spaces. But yeah, I think to your point, Netanyahu's been running around. He's no better than Osama bin Laden, um, or anybody else that we've
You
felt
said
like
you called it best when you said he's no better than Putin.
Putin. Same thing. Same thing. Actually, I would say probably one to one, same type of person, right? Same type of power
Same deal.
dynamic and all of that stuff, right? I think, right? And here's my thing that I think is controversial. Like, don't get me wrong, I hate Donald Trump. We all hate Donald Trump. Um, we hate everything that he does. We hate that he's easily manipulated by racists and stuff like that. But I do feel like I feel like in my heart that he had positive intent. I do think he had positive intent in trying to stop the Iran um Israel conflict. I think he thought I can stop this. This will be my golden goose, my golden egg to say, look what I did. All this shit, it will overshadow all the other stuff that he did, right? Um, and so do I think that he went about it the right way? Bombing, etc. Probably not. There probably were ways to have conversations or discussions. I think he just went to the most invasive way, right? Instead of saying, "Yo, let's take some medicine for that sinus infection you have," he went to the "let's take the sinus out," right? Um, and I think he just got played. So I think he truly had the best interest at hand. He's like, fucking you know what? I'm gonna drop bombs over here. I'm gonna let them bomb us. As long as there's no American casualties, I can look like a hero in this situation. And I think it worked out. There were no American casualties. And then he started his victory lap just too soon. Like, yo, it's done, it's a wrap. And maybe the agreement was, yo, you got 12 hours after to stop it. And these dudes was like, oh, think about it. If you in a room with somebody you hate, or you just fought or been getting beat up by or whatever, right? For X amount of time, and somebody says, yo, in 12 hours, y'all have to shake hands and be friends. You're not gonna sit there for 12 hours and just stare at each other and talk it out. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna get your last licks in. And I think, ideally, That's what Israel initiated, right? First. And of course, in Iran, punch in the mouth, got to punch back. And there you go. Then Trump wakes up the next day. He's swearing on the internet because his 12-day war, fell out. The merch he had made, anything good, anything positive that he would have been able to make some momentum off of, looked like it was going down the drain. Um, but I think we're at a place right now where it's quiet. Um, Maybe it took a little longer than normal, and hopefully, right, it's done. I don't believe that it's done, and that's probably what my biggest question is. Like, do you trust that these two individuals, or more so just the one, and Netanyahu? Do you think? I mean,
Yeah, it's
especially
the
that
one.
now that he's going to be charged by Israel.
It's the one. I mean, and I don't think you're crazy for thinking what you're thinking about Trump, right? For because everything you're saying is pretty much saying he tried to satisfy some type of selfish accomplishment. And
Hmm.
I think he is an anarchist, even in that sense where I think even if he doesn't know how he might be doing good or bad, he wants to separate himself so much from other presidencies, especially the last one that just existed.
Hmm.
So it's definitely possible that in a weird, roundabout, selfish way, he did think he was going to be doing something. Um, but it's Israel, man. I just look at everything that's been going on. The genocide, the invasions, the starvation. I mean, this stuff that Netanyahu is doing has been written, has been documented. He's been saying that he's been wanting to do this stuff for quite some time. So how can you really believe that this nation, where its citizens believe they are justified in oppressing, killing, massacring another group of people, how do you stop that level of hatred, that level of privilege, that level of whatever you want to call it? I don't believe it'll be stopped until we truly, truly decide to sever ties with these people, let them know, hey, we are not backing you anymore. But anytime that ever happens, something happens. I mean, Kennedy, that was one of the last things he said he wanted to do, and
Yeah.
what happened to him? So
Well,
uh, I don't know, man.
if if you know what, if I had to trade apples for oranges in this situation,
Saying take Trump.
look, man, I'm okay with Israel continuing if it means that you know, you know what I'm saying. I think he
Wow.
could. But yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? Because obviously they're saying that Israel is trying to, or going, or planning to charge Netanyahu for, you know, crimes from years and years and years past, right? And which we figured, I think VP's been saying for a long time. That's why he wants to continue the wars and he wants to continue, the genocide, because as long as they're at war, he wouldn't lose office, right? Now he can be allegedly held accountable, and we'll see. We'll see. I hope they do. Hope they get him the fuck up out of there, and then just kind of turn the tone of Israel, right? Like, because
I don't know how you will. Have you been seeing the videos of these people and how they're celebrating their actions in Palestine right now?
mm-mm,
I mean, there's videos. If you see different videos, there's different people, Israeli people, just cheering on how kids are being killed, and it's bad.
yeah, that's wild. That's wild, man. It's a crazy world that we're in right now, man. And all it takes is for the wrong person to get hit. Like, you ever been in a club and a fight break out
Yeah,
and the wrong person get hit, and now it's 50 people fighting instead of two people? That's what I'm saying.
very soon.
And historically it wasn't as major of a concern, because regardless of what the previous presidents have done, specifically for black people, etc., I think a lot of them have made way to where they've built relationships with other leaders, other nations, right? Today, I don't know that other nations and other leaders are fond of Trump. You know what I'm saying? Or America, for that matter, right? This guy is power hungry. He's basically saying, "Yo, I'm gonna charge y'all X, amount of money because I don't want y'all to make money." End the story. Now he's talking about hitting Canada finally with the major tariffs. Like it's about to get even crazier locally than anywhere else because now he probably thinks he's untouchable.
Yeah, I think you're right in the sense that I think the rest of the world has always known America to be hypocrites, right? I think we've just been historically better at hiding it and making them feel like we're better than we truly are.
Mhm.
But this guy, again, he's exposing to me the underbelly of what American politics has really been about: greed, money, not caring about morality, not really caring about the Constitution. I mean, he's been unprecedented in his actions, but we can argue many times throughout this nation how people in this nation haven't benefited from the laws of this nation. So I just think right now the world is truly watching because he's been the person that said, "Look at me, look at me, look at me." And now when they look at us, they don't see somebody who's polished, who can seem like a humanitarian, who can seem like they care. They're seeing what America really truly is. And we can say that, right? Because he won the vote. So
Right.
there were millions of Americans that felt like him, that think like him, that voted like him. And while that isn't all of us, it's a hell of a lot of us. Even those that we thought that we had as allies were truly on his side.
Right.
So unfortunately, this is probably the worst in a long time that America is being seen by the world. And I think you're right. It's a black eye. It's more than a black eye. It's horrible.
And if I'm another nation and I'm on the outside looking in and I see how divided our nation is, right? Like this is an opportunity to become, the number one. If I'm China, we could take over. We could be the number one nation in the world, like we could figure it's like street knowledge, right? You see it's a block and some cats on the block is beefing, or whoever runs that block, he doesn't have control of the two dudes or three dudes or four dudes that are on that block. It's your opportunity to move in and take that block, right? Now you take their workers and you make it happen. And I'm thinking, if I'm another nation, that's how I'd be looking at it, right? The only thing you got to worry about, of course, is this guy is loose cannon, He's a loose cannon. Like we saw, he don't even listen. He didn't listen to Congress. He didn't even run it by Congress. He like, you know what? Hey, go ahead and just drop some bombs over there. Yeah,
Not listening to his intelligence. He's literally sitting out here saying, "Well, the intelligence community is wrong." I mean, the only thing we
and
can
then
hope for at
even
this
worse, he
point.
puts it all on social media. Right? So,
Yeah,
like, if I'm another world leader, all I got to do is sign up for Truth Social, and I already know what came my way and what this guy's saying. And he don't have a way of saying it to where it's like, yo, we just got it done. Let's hope that it gets cleaned up. Blah blah blah. No, he said, yo, we just bombed. They bitch ass hit us back, weak as hell. We brushed it off. Look at my face. Ain't been in no fight. I'm going to the club. Like that's the type of shit he be on, yo. And so now you taunting these people, it's a rough situation, man. It is a rough
yeah,
situation.
absolutely, absolutely.
Um, but it is what it is, man. Canada's looking nicer and nicer, yo. Nicer and nicer. Um, NBA draft just happened this past week. Um, See, this is part of the problem. Like we talk about NBA or basketball and how it's kind of dying and so on, right? The NBA draft used to be a big thing. Like you used to really talk about it and prepare for it and things like that. Look forward to it. I'm starting to think like after last. I don't know if last year was the first year. Maybe it was a couple years before that, but you probably know the top two or three names, and that's it. And beyond that, it drops off significantly. You don't know who's going to be The game changers, who's going to be the ones that make a difference on their teams. Like I'm trying to think, do you think that's a problem with March Madness and NCAA kind of dying down a little bit, or do you think it's the NBA not marketing the stuff properly?
I think it's a bit of both, man, because I don't. I think with I don't think we've been able to figure out how to create parity in talent in the talent pool anymore. Because it's like these kids all play together, they all play the same, they all train together, and they don't really stand out to be super special. There's three of them that are super special. Uh, you've been watching them since they were in junior high school, and then that's it. And so you get to this draft, Cooper Flag, this person, that person, and then you're done. And NCAA doesn't do a good job of marketing the league as a whole, the NCAA as a whole anymore. The tournaments, it's the coverage, all of that. It's impacted it. And then the NBA, you know, I don't remember seeing a lot of marketing about the draft at all.
Right. Yeah, I was super surprised because the finals ended, and then I don't know why I can't remember his name, not David Stern, but the commissioner goes on, he
Silver.
posts on Silva goes online, Silver goes online, says it's been a great season. We got the draft coming up Thursday. I'm like, yo, the season just ended. Like, how is this a thing? You haven't even had a chance to try and promote this thing. You haven't had a chance to market the draft. It's been finals, 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 two garbage market teams, right? With OKC and Indy. Oh, and by the way, we got this draft coming up, which is going to be highlighted by, of course, purebred white boy, and then whoever falls after that, right? Ace Bailey probably being the second biggest name who ended up dropping to 5, which is kind of wild to me.
Yeah.
Um, but I just feel like they could have done a better job with marketing the draft, and it feels like it's been that way now for a couple of years.
To your point, right? The finals just ended, and then not even 2 weeks later, the NBA draft. Well, the NFL, what do? Right? When the draft is loading, there's a week-long celebration, if you will, leading up to it. You got people out there, wherever it is, out there for the entire week, seeing their favorite stars, seeing their team's franchise, seeing players, all of this. The NBA draft is Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Where's the hype? There's no concerts. There's no celebrity row. There's no countdown. There's no show. There's no none of that. So the league, to your point, is kind of telling us as fans that the draft don't matter to to them. So why should it matter to us?
Yeah. And I'm wondering if it has anything to do, like, you think it has anything to do with the NIL stuff? Like, is it just that we're seeing these people, these college kids more often and more frequently in the media, in the news and stuff like that. So it's not really, it's not as hype when the time comes around.
Well, no, NIL, I mean, is a new concept. So I mean, that them getting paid really doesn't have anything to do with anything. I mean, NIL, if anything, benefits the kid that goes to Texas and he's getting money from the boosters and he's filling seats. Will he be a number one pick? Maybe not. But I think it's the NBA and also the way the NBA set up, the way the lottery is set up, the way that these kids and going back to the NCAA, going back to the way that these kids, you can have a first round pick in the NBA and never see him play because he's not as good, he's not ready. Then you got the European picks and all of these picks and pick swaps and stashes, and it's just too much stuff. And it's like at the end of the day, people are like, "Yo, who's gonna play for my team? Are they gonna make an impact? Why do I care?" And when you have all of those things, it's very easy rather to get lost in the draft being important. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking at the 59 or 60 picks that are here, and 30 of them were people that resulted on teams due to like trades. Like just in the first round, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of them were trades. Like that's crazy. That's crazy. Um, but Cooper
It's
Flag
almost
goes
like
to
the
Duke,
NHL draft. It's almost literally like the NHL draft.
which was what Thursday or Friday, right? And by the
Yeah.
way, NHL draft is like 7 rounds, like the NFL too, which is wild. Um, Cooper Flag ends up on the Dallas Mavericks. Somehow the Mavericks end up with the number one overall pick, even though their team is full of talent, old and young. Um, they got three solid older guys in Klay Thompson, AD, and Kyrie, right? It's going to take for all three of them to stay healthy because all three of them have injury issues. So if you tell me that the three of those guys are going to play 60 of the 82 games collectively and Cooper Flag is there, you still got Derek Lively, you still got some other good pieces there. What do you think the season looks like for Dallas?
It's a lot of ifs. It was a lot of ifs. I don't know that Kyrie Irving. I don't know that uh, Unibrow. I don't know that Clay are going to play more than 40 games. I really don't. Cooper Flag may wind up being the guy by mid-season. You know what I mean? The West is still stacked. OKC just won. That's a pretty tough machine to go against. Denver's going to be back with a vengeance. LeBron's going to have something to say. I don't know, man. You're talking about a team that was a playing team that didn't make it. So Cooper Flag, supposedly a beast, man, and they say this kid is the real deal. And to your point, can those other pieces stay healthy? I highly doubt it. I think if the Mavericks get to maybe being a bottom eight team, I think that'll be a hell of an accomplishment. But I don't see those guys staying healthy at all. I don't. So
Yeah,
I
we've
give
seen
them at best eighth.
eighth seed in the West. Yeah, the I don't know, we'll see. VP is here with us now. We just kind of talked a little bit about the draft and how unfun
Yeah, I know.
it seemed to be.
I'm
And
listening.
Cooper Flag getting into Dallas. Um, that Western Conference is kind of all over the place. I think there's still openings. I really don't think like OKC had the best record. They won the chip and all, and they got tons and tons of young talent, but they seem so beatable. Like they struggled with Indy, they struggled with throughout the playoffs for the most part, and even though they pulled it off, I just don't know whether I'm sold on them for next year. I'm still looking at San Antonio, but I do think Dallas with Cooper Flag have a great chance, right? Kyrie gets healthy. Maybe they're talking about them bringing in a guard to hold it down while Kyrie is rehabbing, right? Whether it's Chris Paul, whether it's D'Lo, what have you. If that can carry them halfway through the season and then Kyrie can stay healthy and make it through the playoffs, I feel really good about Dallas. EJ's on the other side of the coin. What do you think, VP?
No, I absolutely agree with what EJ said. The premise of your question relies on a lot of ifs. It relies on a guy who is habitually injured in AD, right? All the time, every season that he's played, he's been injured. Kyrie, now that he's getting older in age, is constantly injured as well. And then Klay Thompson as well, constantly injured. So where you would think that, okay, you bring in a guy like Cooper Flag, it's going to take some pressure off these other guys. They're not going to have to score as much. They're going to be available more games, blah, 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 blah. But we've seen AD just break down just on like not even like going hard kind of plays, just, random shit or whatever. So I don't think that Dallas is going to be the juggernaut that people think it's going to be because of injuries. That team is just too injury prone. In terms of OKC winning, I don't think they're going to be that strong next year either, just because they got taken to what was it, game 6 or game 7 or something like that with
Indy.
Denver,
Hmm.
or with Denver, thanks to a injury to
Aaron
Aaron
Gordon.
Gordon. Yeah. And then in the I don't know what the hell happened in the Western Conference Finals. The Timberwolves just didn't show up, and then they get taken to a Game 7 with Indy, who, most of us probably didn't think. We thought at best it might be a gentleman's sweep. Go 5 games, and they took them to 7 games. And before the Halliburton injury, I'm not sure what you guys thought watching, but I was thinking, man, I don't know if Indy's going to survive tonight because I'm not Indy. OKC is going to survive tonight because these guys are cooking. And then once Halliburton gets injured, everything else kind of goes to crap. But when you look at the box scores of the game, I know I talked about the box scores with Boston when they played the Heat and Joe Mazzulla. So if you look, we only lost 1 quarter or whatever. But when you look at Game 7, that whole game came down to the third quarter. It's like a 2-point game after the end of each quarter, the first, second, and fourth, and then the third game. I think Indy lost the third quarter by like 16 points or something like that. And that third quarter is the whole ball game.
Yeah, I feel confident that if Halliburton would have been healthy, that Indy definitely wins that series, just the way it looked like it was going. And even if he had just not gotten hurt in that Game 7, if he was serviceable, I think that they could have pulled that out because TJ McConnell was making it happen. It just came like in the third quarter, to your point, when they first came out, it just seemed like Indy forgot how to make shots for people or get people shots. They were just running up the court and playing bully ball, and one person was holding the ball till there was like 5 seconds on the shot clock and taking wild ass 3-pointers or bad jump shots and things like that, and it led, or turnovers, and it just, that's what led to your point, to OKC running away with it. But nonetheless, man, Shea whatever, say Gildress Alexander, whatever his name is, SGA, had a great season. I can't take anything from him. Dude got MVP, got Finals MVP, got Western Conference MVP, scoring title, like, some unheard of type season for that kid. So shout out to him. But kind of going back to just that Western Conference look, the other thing is that Houston Phoenix trade might play a part out there. We saw KD got moved from Phoenix to Houston after, that whole big 3 thing failed. Like, that was a major failure. Phoenix didn't make the playoffs. They didn't make the play-in. Like, that's crazy to me. I think it's because they considered Bradley Beal a piece of a big 3, and he's really little. Like, he's not a big 3 piece. To me, he's Eric Gordon, like, just a guy that he had so much volume in Washington that people thought he was that good. John Wall was always hurt, and they needed someone to score, so they just gave him the ball and told him shoot. And now we kind of found out who Bradley Beal really is. But do you think Houston and he's always hurt? Yeah, throw that on top of it. The one guy in the league at the time, I think there's now 2 or 3 maybe, but for a long time he was the only one that had a no trade clause. Like,
Right.
what? How? You? All right. Who won that trade though, in your eyes? Phoenix, and
Phoenix.
and Houston.
Phoenix.
I think Phoenix won that
Unequivocally.
Trade. Phoenix gets
Unequivocally.
they get the cap relief of getting Kevin Durant off the books. They got the assets that they got from
Houston.
Houston
Jalen
can be
Green.
huge.
Yeah,
Not just the players, but also picks.
I think
And
3 second round
so
picks or something.
right, they got a first and like 4 or 5 second round picks or something like that. So that stuff can be huge. And then also maybe you package that into another player. The issue for Houston with me is I get it that it's a trade that's basically win now, but you're getting ready to go into a season with a guy who's 37. You know what I'm saying? And Kevin Durant still plays at a high level, but he's also always injured. You know what I'm saying? And so going to Houston, I don't know why you would give up so much to get a guy that age, you know. And I told you guys in chat, I know the Heat was going after him, but they were saying that the Houston thought that Miami never put together a convincing package, and I'm like, I'm glad we didn't, because you're going to get a guy who's 37, and how much better is that going to make your franchise, especially if you're only going to get one, maybe 2 seasons out of him.
Here's the other thing, right? If you're Houston, you got the coach, right? Controversial coach, kicked out of Boston for whatever reason, right? Comes in, boosts your franchise from where you were last season to finishing number two in the West. Number
Hmm.
two. And you got Jalen Green, who's a young star. Everyone around the league says this kid is the future. Why? Why would you change anything when you just finished the second seed in the West, right? For the regular season. Why would you go get a guy who will be 38 by the end of this year? Why? And to VP's point, he's always hurt. Why are you ready to win? Why do you think this guy's going to elevate you to win now when he likely may not be available? Why not take those picks that you had, go out there and find someone young who's on the move, or free agency on the move, something? It made absolutely no sense. And Phoenix, while they may not do anything either going forward, they still got Booker. And to VP's point, they just cleared up some cap. So I think that was a huge head scratcher for me with Houston. And Phoenix clearly won that trade.
I like this trade better if they kept Jalen Green. Like if they were able to put Jabari Smith in this deal, I would have really liked this deal. I still like what Houston looks like, right? Let's not act like they don't have Şengün over there. They've got um Van Fleet, which a lot of people forget over. Eason is over there, and then the kid that showed up in the playoffs, Amin Thompson, who looks like he is the next big thing. So Houston still has some assets, but I think they gave up a lot for an older guy. Again, we're going to be living on ifs with this team, to you guys' points, and I mean, I think it can pan out if the guy can stay healthy. But again, we're talking about an if and a 37-year-old. I think what's happening with some of these teams, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I think some of these teams are not looking at that number anymore, that age number, because people are looking at the Tom Brady and the LeBron and the longevity that these two guys have, and they're not the rule. They're the exception. And I'm not sure if these guys that are getting paid millions of dollars as executives for these teams realize that that is not the rule. And I get taking a chance, but this guy's had an Achilles injury already. He's had some other big injuries. Not to mention he's all of about 37 pounds with Tim's on. So you have to be kind of worried about his health and what can come from that. I would be, especially at 37 years old, regardless of how great of a scorer, how great of a player he is historically and even today.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I just went and looked at KD in the last 7 seasons, he's played more than 50 games only 3 times. So,
Dang.
That's
the
crazy.
odds,
Yeah.
the
Dang.
odds just show you're going to get a Kevin Durant that's going to be hurt just because he's old. And, and I think to your point about these GMs or, whoever it is that are putting these teams together, making these trades for these guys that are looking at these older players, I think for them, what they're not necessarily thinking about winning, they're thinking about dollars. We're going to get this guy, is going to make our team more exciting. We're going to sell more jerseys. We're going to sell more tickets. We're going to sell more hot dogs and beers in the stands. And so that's the win, because I just don't think that if you're a Houston team that's on the rise, that you're thinking we're going to bring in freaking Kevin Durant and that's going to put us over the top. You know what I mean? Like it makes sense if you have other pieces. Steve, get ready to roll your eyes in the back of your head. We're going to talk about the Heat. When you have D Wade and Shaq, and then the Heat brought in Gary Payton to back up Jason Williams, the white boy, the point guard or whatever, that
White
makes
chocolate.
sense. Yeah, that makes a little bit of sense, because it's like, okay, we got our guy who's our starting point guard, But then we got this old head veteran point guard that can run the second unit plus give us great defense off the bench. You know what I'm saying? We're not looking for him to do a lot of scoring. We're looking for him to just manage things while the starters are off the court. We got Shaq, and then we also got old ass Alonzo Mourning. We're not looking for him to be 1998 Alonzo Mourning. We just need him to hold down the paint while Shaq's getting a breather. You know what I'm saying? And
Or
that
Rashard
works in those cases.
Lewis, Ray
Right. That works
Allen.
in a case like that.
But the
No,
difference,
this
in
I'm talking about
those.
2016, not
Yeah.
the
No, I'm
LeBron
saying,
ones.
I'm saying the difference in those teams even back then is you didn't market a whole franchise to go get them. You picked them up in free agency. These
True,
guys are
true.
trading picks and assets in
Yeah.
a young player for an over the hill guy. It's
Right.
insane.
And then also the difference where I was going to just finish up that point real quick is that these were guys who were just like, we just need some quality minutes out of them when they come off the bench. You're not looking for quality minutes from KD. You're looking for him to be the guy. And, I don't know if he's the guy anymore. I mean, obviously he's still a guy. He's a Hall of Fame player. You know what I'm saying? Multiple time MVP, etc. But the guy is almost 40, and you're just not
And, it
gonna.
has,
You're not. They
and
think
to
they're
your
getting
point,
OKC Kevin Durant, and you're not.
he's only played over 50 games 3 times in the last 7 seasons.
Correct.
And again, to you bringing up the example, we've seen this in the past where you had a Hewing go to Orlando or some over the hill guy go to another team. But in free agency, you marketed your picks and a young star with a team that just went in the regular season for the second seed for a guy that it just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know. Maybe to Steve's point, they're just trying to capture that lure, that fandom, to say, hey, we can see a generational all-time guy play here in Houston, and it'll be great. And the exposure will be great. But when these guys miss 45 games, it's going to be bad.
The team that I do like, the trade that I do like, that I think you guys are going to hate and everybody hates, I like the Desmond Bain trade to the Magic. I
Um,
think we just talked about how uh unexciting or lack of value there's been in these drafts lately. So when you talk about Desmond Bain going for the same amount of picks as what's your boy up in New York, EJ, that you guys picked up,
Bronson.
Mikal Bridges.
Bridges.
Mikal, sorry.
Bridges. He's a younger guy. Every time Memphis needed a score and Ja wasn't there, or scorer, he was guy. When Ja was out, he averaged somewhere about 28 points a game. And I think for the Magic, you're adding this guy. You're not trading Paolo. You're not trading Franz. You're not giving anything up, but you do get rid of Kentavious Caldwell Pope, who we drastically overpaid, the Magic that is, who did absolutely nothing, wasn't in our starting unit, barely played last year until guards were hurt. You gave up Cole Anthony. Yeah, he's a good defensive guy, decent point guard. I like the kid, but you're bringing back a guy who can probably put up 20 points a game. He could give you 20 and 5 a game easily while you're still keeping your nucleus. I'm not mad at that trade. I do think they gave a lot up. But I think the value there can be return on that value when you're talking about a younger guy in Desmond Bain who looks like he just needs a team to run. And I think, even though Paulo is kind of the guy on the Magic right now, I do think Desmond Bain can come in and make a major difference for his team.
I like the trade the Magic made. I don't like what they paid. That was my problem with trade. I think they drastically overpaid. And again, with all trades, if it works out, you guys win a championship, nobody's gonna be like, oh, they sacrificed the future for this one championship. I mean, that point will get made by some
Right.
talking heads, but for fans, they don't give a shit. Like, we won. You know what I mean? That's all they care about. Like, you don't hear people saying, oh, the Rams, we sacrificed so much to win that one championship. They just happy as hell they won that one championship. when they gave up all that stuff to get Matthew Stafford and Jalen Ramsey, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So um, that's my only problem with the trade is just what they paid.
Yeah, I agree. I think they gave up a little bit too much for him, especially depth wise, because now, I'm looking at his career. He's had an injury in 20 he had an injury 2023, 2024 season, played 42 games. I mean, the last time he played a lot of games last year. And he's been pretty much seemingly a steady guy, but he's starting to get up into that sixth, seventh season. And it looks like for you guys, if he or Apollo or something happens, who's going to come off the bench to help y'all? And I thought Cole Anthony, while he's not a world beater, I thought he was a good, solid piece to keep. And then you guys gave up so many assets. So I don't really know how you round that team out. I guess there's still moves to be made, but that's the only thing I don't like that you gave up seemingly a little bit too much for Bane.
Yeah, I think they're strapped on value to make trades. They're gonna have to, I think, go out and try and pick up somebody in free agency. They're gonna need a veteran, I'm sure. Probably a ball handler for the most part, and they're still struggling at big man, right? Like, so Jalen Suggs is still there. I love that kid when he's healthy. He just is never healthy. Like, he's worse than any of the guys we've talked about so far as injuries. But they need a stretch big man, someone that can shoot. They brought in Jason Richardson's son out of the draft. That was their first round pick. And the Magic, they look pretty good. And when you talk about the NBA, right, going into next season, Boston's going to be without Tatum
Tatum,
this coming season. Indy is going to be without
Halliburton,
Halliburton. No one really knows what Milwaukee's going to be. Detroit,
They're not gonna have Dame. He's gonna be out as well.
right, Dame's going to be out. But we don't know if they're going to have Giannis. Detroit
Mhm.
is going to be where they're at. The Knicks are going to be where they're at. Cleveland just made a big deal, I think, which we'll talk about here in a second.
yeah,
But I think
yeah.
after that, the Magic can position themselves depending on what the Heat and the Hawks do, in free or in the trade market, and maybe even the Sixers, right? Sixers probably
Well,
have a shot if they make some good
Hawks
trade.
just picked up some people, didn't they?
Yeah, they just made a move. They just made a move also.
Yeah,
But I think the Magic can position themselves for a 3 or 4 seed in the East. And if something happens where someone on Cleveland gets hurt or the Knicks bring in a new coach and it just doesn't gel or something like that, you can see where the Magic can catapult themselves pretty high in the Eastern Conference with these three guys. Of course, there's still some pieces that need to be moved around to get them to that that premier spot, but I think they did pretty good. I mean, it's crazy that 500 they went 41-41 this past season, got them a 7 seed. Like, we're in a space now where the NBA is crazy. The Bulls made the playoffs or made the play in at 39-43. But Lonzo
Yeah, I
too
think.
is big too. Go ahead, VP.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say. I think you're right. The East is pretty much wide open. It's gonna be the Knicks and Cleveland are the top dogs, and then everybody else fighting for position under that, I
Mhm.
believe. And again, that's barring injury, etc. But teams in the East, a lot of them have a path to the conference finals, given all these injuries that you just brought up in the East or whatever. So I think teams are well within reason to make moves, but sometimes you can overpay, and I think they overpaid for Desmond Bain. But I do agree that the Magic are positioned very well in the East.
speaking of the Knicks, uh, briefly, I want to get you guys a quick take on the rumor or the idea that they may be interviewing Don Staley as for a head coaching position. I feel like
Yeah,
personally, stop jerking my chain, stop, with the BS. He's just doing this as window dressing. But I
that's
mean,
all it is.
yeah, I think overall, I mean, even
Well,
though
would you want
it's,
her as a Knicks fan?
I, I tell you what, man, Knicks fans, a lot of them come from a certain ethnic group, uh, and they wouldn't like it. For one, she's a woman. Two, she's black. Me personally. I think she knows X's and O's, but damn sure. I mean, you're talking about an Olympic gold medalist, one of the best female basketball players of all time, a winning just mentality, a winning coach. Any kid that she's coached on the next level has become great. I don't see why not, man. If Becky Ham could be on the bench in San Antonio and make a difference, I don't see why not. It'll be a huge, huge task, with the media and all of that. But I think she's somebody. I think if it's anybody, it'd be somebody like her.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I don't really care about stuff like that. I don't think it necessarily makes a difference, um, whether it's a guy or a woman coach or whatever. But
Oh, it makes a
I
difference.
think that this is, like EJ said, it's window dressing. It's I'll tell you exactly um the where to equate it to. Remember when all the talk in LA was that they was interviewing I don't know why I almost called this guy John Calipari, the Steve's boy from Connecticut. Um the Connecticut men's
Calhoun,
basketball coach, Steve.
Calhoun,
No, Calhoun was the old one. I can't
Whatever.
remember. Hurley.
But
Hurley.
Curly.
yeah, they were bringing in Curly, all this kind of stuff.
Hurley.
And it turned out to be exactly what the media was saying. This was a smokescreen because they really were going to hire JJ Redick, which is why when they brought in Curly, they gave him a bullshit offer that they knew he was going to reject. So then that way they can be like, well, we tried. So now we got to just go to the fallback position because we can't get Curly and
Hurley.
uh, Hurley, whatever, that guy, the Connecticut guy, Pearly. And so they ended up with the coach they wanted from the jump, which is JJ Redick. And I think with the Knicks, I don't know who the person is, but they have somebody they want that
I think they
is,
really want JJ Kidd or Jason Kidd.
which is what the Dallas already said no, so that's not happening.
I know.
You know what I mean?
It's
But
crazy.
they also said they're not going to extend them.
Which is wild because
Right.
Jason Kidd walked away from them after the Luka trade, but still was there at the draft sitting with with Cooper Flag. Like Dallas, they don't know what the hell they're doing, yo.
They really
What did
don't.
Trump
So
say? You got two sides, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing because that's what it seems like in Dallas, yo.
so I think the Knicks have their eye on somebody. Obviously, they tried the Jason Kidd thing. They tried another coach. I can't remember who it was, and now they have their eye on somebody who a lot of people are probably going to turn their nose up at, like a JJ Redick style coach, and they're throwing the Don Staley thing out there, so people being like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then when it doesn't work out, they say, "Well, we tried Kidd, we tried so and so, we kicked tires on Don Staley, and now, we hired J.R.
Doc
Smith."
Rivers. Yo,
Yeah, I don't. I think it's kind of weird for me. It's a weird space for me because I think Leon Rose and those guys, I think they're really trying to do their due diligence, but at the
how
same
is
time,
Mark Jackson not in the conversation, EJ?
to
Like, I
VP,
get the dude is blackballed. I get that he said he would
he's
fuck
blackball. That's it.
Steph Curry's wife on TV. Like, we get that, but like,
Yeah, I mean he's blackballed. That's it. He's never to coach in this league again.
I would bring back Van Gundy. Got me fucked up. I'll bring Jeff right on back, yo. Call that man
Jeff,
up.
Jeff don't want to coach for us. So
And
I
Jeff
mean,
is Jeff with he's with Boston, am I right? I forget. He's on the staff. I forget what staff it is
He's on
though.
a staff. I can't remember which one he is. I think it's Boston. But I'm not 100% sure.
I wouldn't mind Don Staley. And when you said it doesn't matter, I think it does matter. I think
absolutely.
No,
if
I
I'm
said to me it doesn't matter.
I
I
see
didn't
what
say
you
it doesn't
mean.
matter.
You're right. If I'm the Knicks, that's the splash I would love to make right now. You would set the world on its shoulder. We're dealing with this piece of shit administration who's taking women's rights away, and you're gonna say, "Yo, we see the value in not only a woman but a black woman to be the face of." I know VP hates them, but they are the
Yo,
biggest and most historic franchise in the NBA, and it's not even close.
it'll
Maybe
be
the
it'll be
Lakers,
Whoopi
Celtics,
Goldberg.
but
It'll be that Whoopi Goldberg movie.
word, word.
Oh yeah.
But
The
I also think it's your pathway to saying like we're seeing female sports in general, especially the WNBA, is becoming so big, right? And so if you, I know she's not in the WNBA right now, right? But you make a path to females in coaching. They already, I mean, Pop already did that with Becky Hammond. And now if you have a head coach, a female head coach, and not only if you have her, but if it pans out and you guys have the talent to at least make the playoffs no matter what, then I think you're opening that line. And I think there's a benefit to, to the WNBA, and people will start to feel like women in sports is a thing, when they're up against this whirlwind of, you know, Republicans telling us that women need to be in the kitchen barefoot and, washing dishes and, getting the eggs ready, which by the way,
That's
it is
kind of
breakfast time.
what my problem. That's kind of what my problem with it would be, and I don't even mean it necessarily as a problem. I just mean like, can Don Staley handle that, right? Because
Mm.
you're already going to have the attention that being in New York brings if you're the coach, right? And then on top of that, it's going to be non-sports media covering the Knicks, and it's going to all be covered from like a political angle, right? And then so somebody like Trump or one of these other, Republicans who still live in the 1950s are going to make some comment, and then she's going to always be constantly asked, Josh Hawley said this, Trump said that, this person said this, what do you think? You know what I mean? And other people in the NBA who also might have backwards thinking, this unnamed league source, this unnamed, franchise executive said XYZ. What do you think about this? If the team is not good, well, they brought her in. Is the team not good because she's the coach? Is the team not good just because, they fell off? Whatever. Everything that she does is gonna have this heightened scrutiny, and I don't know if she wants to invite that into her own life.
We say it in the NFL all the time, and I think it's time for the NBA too, right? I think it's time to get away from doing the same thing. Like they're talking about the Knicks talking to Mike Brown and, guys that we've seen coach, and maybe they were a little bit successful because they had a superstar like a LeBron or something, or they weren't successful at all. Like, I think you just try something new. And maybe it's not Dawn Staley, but maybe somebody young, maybe somebody who's looking to get into it. And we saw the Lakers tried it with JJ, and of course he had LeBron James, he had AD, and then he had Luca, right? So them making the playoffs was probably inevitable, but it wasn't a failure. You know what I mean? And it seemed like he had the locker room. It seemed like he had a rapport with them. It seemed like he's closer to today's game. We talk about in the NFL, right? We got these old head coaches that refuse to run motion, right? And they're behind the eight ball on everything. So maybe you need to get a coach that's maybe a little bit younger in there that understands what today's game looks like and can draw up some plays and coach these guys to what they should be playing for today, and not looking at, full court press. Oh, let's make sure we're in our 2-3 zone, like switch it up a little bit. I think it's a good opportunity for the Knicks, and I think they have the talent on that team with Brunson and so on, and the others, that you can bring someone in that wants to do something different, and that team can still be successful.
Ultimately, I hope they do actually give her an interview because I think that, while it might be window dressing, I think that while we might not see a woman head coach in the NBA for who knows how long, I think that'll be a good step. If they gave her a serious injury interview.
Yeah, no doubt. Um, Porzingis down to Atlanta. You talked about that. EJ, I don't know how major of a move that is. Jordan Poole, though, going to New Orleans is interesting. Um, I don't really see any other
Porzingis
big,
might help
big
them a good.
trades.
Porzingis
Okay.
might help Atlanta a good 10, 15 games. That's all he got. I think he's done.
Yeah.
7-footer with those injuries. I think he's done, Joe.
I'm just saying the playoffs, it looked kind of weird. What do you guys make of Lonzo Ball? Cleveland got Lonzo Ball for basically a pack of gum. Isaac Okoro, like, the Bulls were just like,
It,
yo, give us anything, yo. Just throw us a name and we'll take it. Give us your janitor.
it definitely helps the team that, won all these games, excuse me, and was dominant all season. And if they can come back and be healthy, I think Lonzo could be a very good piece for them. You know, if he's healthy. I mean, there's so many ifs going on with these off-season moves, but to your point, you know, they got a guy that when he plays, he's a decent two-way guy. He can elevate your offense. He could be good off the bench for peanuts. So I think if anything, you know, getting him, acquiring him for what they got him for is definitely a better addition for that team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not super sold on, like, the theme of today has been these guys are just super injured. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like all the time, and he's another one. And so I think that's why Chicago was willing to give him up for almost nothing, because for them the benefit is, they're clearing him off the books. They gave him that huge contract, and he's been injured since. And so it's like, let's get this off of our books, clean up our financial house, and then try to get this team rolling with whatever we get for him.
I really wanted his brother, man, in Orlando, LaMelo. I know
Yeah.
Charlotte ain't moving them, but um, that kid, man, he's so good. Kid is something different. I want to talk a little bit in the second half about some of the weird hip hop stuff that's going on, Jim Jones and stuff. But before we get to that, VP, you missed a good portion of our political stuff. Tell us a little bit about the bill and anything that's like major right now that we should be focusing on, that people should be focusing on and aware of.
So the bill last night, it advanced in the Senate. It hasn't passed yet. It basically like advanced the debate stage, and it's getting ready to go for a vote. It would have gotten voted on today. Democrats delayed it by asking that the bill be read, and so they wouldn't do what's called unanimous consent to the bill being read and tabled, which means they consider it read even though it wasn't actually read. And so right now, the bill's been being read by the clerk since last night or whatever. So like you go like to any of the news channels like YouTube, they got like a live feed of the clerks reading the bill. None of the senators are there, but they're just reading the bill out loud or whatever. That'll take multiple hours because the bill's like 1,000 pages. But they're hoping to have it voted on by tomorrow. And then once that's voted on, I think they changed some of the language in the bill, so they have to go back over to the House and get passed. And then once the House passes it, it'll go to Trump to sign. The big parts of the bill is that we learned that it actually cuts more in Medicaid than we originally thought. Originally, we thought that it was cutting Medicaid by about $800 billion, and it's actually over $900 billion, so closer to $1 trillion. The Congressional Budget Office, which is a nonpartisan group of, economists and different people, folks who look at a bill and try to determine, like, just off of math, this bill is going to cause this to happen. They say that it's going to cause about 16 million people, 16.16 million people to lose their health insurance that they get through Medicaid. It's going to make huge cuts in SNAP, which is the food stamps program. Huge cuts across the federal government, and then it's also going to raise the debt and deficit and give away $4.5 trillion in tax cuts to the richest Americans and corporations in this country. And last thing I'll say is that two of the yes votes, which it shouldn't be shocking to anybody, but I would hope that folks kind of understand the game that's being played here and see it for what it is, right? One is Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley is the Republican senator from Missouri. And the whole time that this bill had been being debated, he was saying that he was a no vote. He wasn't for it. This bill is going to add all of this money, to the deficit. And also it's going to cut Medicaid. And he doesn't think that that's right. And we can't kick people off their health insurance, yada, 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 yada. And he voted yes for it. Right. And after he votes yes for it, he does an interview like in the hallways of the Congress, and he says, we can't be cutting Medicaid for working people and for poor people in order to consistently give special tax treatment to corporations, right? Because he's positioning himself as being the populist candidate. I'm for the working people. I'm for the working man. I'm for the little guy, right? And he says all this stuff in word, but then indeed he
So
still
people will
votes.
forget that he voted
Yeah,
for it, but they'll see what he said because it's going to go
right.
viral and there's going to be
Because
video and stuff.
when he runs, he wants to run for president in 28. It's no secret, and he's going to take those newspaper clippings that said Holly's a no on this thing. Holly said we can't be cutting people's health care off, and then he's going to leave out the articles that say, "Oh, he flipped and voted for this thing," and pretend that he's a person of the people. And so it's, can these folks, realize, oh no, I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe. That's yet to be seen because Trump is president, right? Like 2020 happened, January 6th, COVID, all of the bad shit that happened the first time around, and he's president again. So we'll see what happens. All the stuff he did with immigration. Every time I turn around, I'm seeing a new video of some Hispanic person saying, "I got played. I don't know what I was thinking. Now my dad is being deported," or whatever.
Mhm.
But anyway, so that's that. The other person is Lisa Murkowski. Senator Lisa Murkowski is the Republican senator from Alaska, who also was hesitant on, the Medicaid cuts, kicking people off health insurance, the food stamp cuts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But she also voted yes for the bill. And the reason why she voted yes for the bill is that they put language in the bill that basically exempts Alaska from all of the shit they're going to do to the rest of the country.
Oh shit! So I need to move
And
to Alaska. It's
so
two
they
things: either move to Alaska or don't be poor. Seems pretty simple to me.
right, and so all of the Medicaid cuts and SNAP and all that stuff like that, food stamps, that stuff's not going to happen in Alaska. And then on top of that, they gave Alaskans even more tax breaks and things like that than they did like for the rest of the country in this bill to essentially buy her vote. And so she's a yes on it. So it is basically the thing that a lot of us talked about with like the Hispanic community in voting for Trump when they said he's only going to go after the bad immigrants or whatever. And it's essentially paying for thee, not for me, and so the Alaskans aren't going to feel this pain, but the rest of the country will. And, I guess it's all good if, as long as, I'm not being hurt by it, it's fine.
A lot of these people in these red states and stuff like that, not realizing kind of what Steve alluded to, that Medicaid isn't just for poor folks, but your grandmother that you couldn't really afford to take care of, that didn't have long-term health insurance or was disabled, or the kid that has a rare disability. Listen, that money you were getting for supported living, that money you were getting for individual day services, day rehabilitation, all of these things are programs that the Home and Community Based Services Program, Medicaid, has paid for. And these are things that they're already right now going through caseload after caseload, city after city, trying to say, hey, where can we trim the fat? And
Oh,
people are gonna be upset. And hey, this is what you wanted.
Yeah. And just like with people in the Hispanic community that are now realizing the consequences of voting for this shit, right? You know who else is going to start feeling it once this bill becomes law? Seniors. Because people who are in nursing homes, the vast majority of people in nursing homes get their nursing home bills paid by Medicaid. And when they
Long-term care
start making
Medicaid
these
program.
cuts, yeah, and when they start making these cuts, these people are going to start getting their nursing home benefits cut, and their children are going to have to pick up the slack. And if they can't, they're going to get kicked out. These nursing homes are going to end up having to close. They're going to get
Yep.
kicked out of these places and have to move back in with their kids, who also likely voted for this shit, right?
Yep.
And people are going to start feeling the consequences or whatever. And so, it's. I was having a conversation with my wife yesterday, and we were talking about. I don't know if you guys seen that girl who was on, and she did like a bunch of Instagram shorts of her dad is getting deported. He has like cancer and stuff, and she was like, she got duped living in Miami, surrounded by Republicans. Talk radio, blah 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 blah.
I didn't see
And
that.
she's trying to educate herself to to be more mindful, all this bullshit or whatever, right? And I'm like, you know, there's one group of voters who don't really get to fuck around with our vote, right? Black people. For some reason, we have the ability to see around corners, but none of the rest of the voting population can. Everybody else is willing to take these flyers. You know what he said he's gonna do, you know, do. So, you know, let's see what happens. Whereas black folks are like, yeah, I hear what he's saying. Yeah, that shit sounds cool, but nah, I'm gonna go with something that's a little bit more tried and true, right?
Because we've been
And it's
duped.
why you look
Yeah.
at you look at the city of New York, right? And Zoran Mandani, who is the Democratic candidate for mayor up there, right? Even though he won that primary in New York, a lot of young voters, a lot of new voters, and things like that. You know who he didn't win? Black people. And as bad as Andrew Cuomo was during COVID, all the deaths in the nursing homes, the sexual harassment allegations, Cuomo resigning in disgrace, still got black votes because people said, you know what, this guy is talking about free buses and free that, blah blah blah, but he's not a Democrat. He's a Democratic socialist, like Bernie Sanders, like an AOC. And while I may support these policies, I don't know if this guy can win, and I can't mess with the alternative. So I'm going to support Adams. I'm not Adams. Cuomo. You know,
give me Cuomo, man. I'll take Cuomo all day.
No,
I'll take Cuomo. He
like there
I mean,
has
he
to
did.
be some type of standards.
Why? Why? That's the problem. We've been living with standards for the last 8, 10, 12 years, right? And look where we are today. My thing is, when you talk about the disability, like I see a lot of people, EJ, you know, like where we're from, and VP, when I talk about it, I mean, like in New York, there's so many scammers up there, right? How many of these people are taking advantage of disability and getting disability checks? Like they live up there off of that. Yet you still see so many of them, the younger ones, not the informed voter, talking about, oh, Trump is the way, you know, this is the right way to go. I don't think they understand that this is going to impact their schemes, like this bill. That I don't know, man. It's going to be a big challenge. The one thing I was going to ask you about, VP, and it slipped my mind for a second there. The birthright citizenship. What's the vote requirement on that? Because we talked about that really briefly. That it would be a tough task, or you know, an uphill battle, but because I know it's not like a, you know, 50 to 49, 51-49 type of thing.
So it's not a voting thing where, so I mean, the Congress can overturn this thing if they want. They're not going to. It's ran by Republicans, right? And even if Democrats took over, Trump would veto it, and then they could override his veto, but they don't have enough votes to do it. So the birthright citizenship thing is here for now, right? And so essentially, what happened here is that Trump did an executive order saying that people who are born in the United States to immigrants who are here illegally are not citizens. And all of this stuff stems from, you know, what we all learned in school, which, you know, Dred Scott, right? Yeah, Dred Scott, former slave, said he's a citizen. The state said no, sued. The Supreme Court came back with what is viewed as being the worst decision in Supreme Court history, saying, yeah, he's not a citizen. After that, we then passed the 14th Amendment saying, no, people who are born here, who are subject to the laws of the United States, are citizens if they're born here. So even if you come here from France on vacation, your wife, girlfriend, whoever goes into labor, if the kid is born in the United States, it's a citizen. There's very small exemptions for like people who are here, like diplomats and things like that. When their kids are born here, their kids aren't citizens because diplomats aren't subject to the laws of the United States or whatever, right? But you know, that's getting super technical, but you guys get the point. So Trump signs an executive order saying they're getting rid of birthright citizenship for immigrants, basically. He was then sued in multiple states, a lawsuit that came out of Virginia, lawsuit that came out of Maryland, and another one that came out of, I want to say it was Tennessee, but I'm not 100% sure. But it was 3 different states that sued. Maryland, Virginia for sure, and I can't remember the third one, along with some individuals who sued. The judges who heard those cases all said this executive order is unconstitutional and it can't be implemented, and they issued a nationwide injunction. Trump then goes to the Supreme Court on an emergency appeal saying, we need you to review this case right away. You can't wait for it to work its way up to the court, because if it's not reviewed right away, we're going to face irreparable harm, right? The Supreme Court agreed, heard the case right away. But Trump doesn't go to the Supreme Court asking them to resolve the issue on the merits, meaning like the underlying issue of the case on birthright citizenship. He asked them to review it on this very technical question on, did the lower courts overstep by issuing a nationwide injunction blocking him from putting the executive order in place? The liberal justices, Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson all asked, if this case is going to end up back here in the Supreme Court on the merits on birthright citizenship, why aren't you guys asking us to resolve that now? And the answer is easy, because the 14th Amendment already says this shit is unconstitutional. The Supreme Court understands the game Trump is playing, and the conservative Republican justices are playing right along with him. So they only take up the question of this very technical, should the lower courts have issued these nationwide injunctions? And the ruling that we got on Friday, which was a 6-3 decision, the 6 conservatives over the 3 liberals, they said, yes, the lower courts overstepped and they curtailed how lower courts can issue nationwide injunctions. Now, that was a long setup to basically say this is what the result is going to be. So essentially what they're saying is that when a kid is born here to an illegal immigrant, that kid won't be a citizen based on Trump's order unless they sue. And then when it goes through the courts or whatever, that kid likely is going to win because the 14th Amendment exists, right? And that kid will be a citizen. But maybe the kid that was born next door to an illegal immigrant, their parents like, well, I don't want to sue because one, I don't got money for a lawyer. I don't want to put my address on the paperwork so ICE can come pick me up or something like that. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to sue. And then their kid is not a citizen. You see what I'm saying? Now, the court said that these cases only should be decided for the parties involved. So we're not talking about 3 lawsuits in 3 different states that I mentioned, Virginia, Maryland, and the third state that I couldn't remember. You had states that also sued. So there are 28 states that joined these lawsuits. So in the 28 states that sued, as well as these individuals who sued, they won because they had already won their case at the lower level. All the Supreme Court did was overturn stopping this executive order nationally. So if you live in one of those 28 states and you have a kid and you're an illegal immigrant, status quo. But if you live in Florida that didn't join, or, you know, Texas or red states, basically, then, you know, if you have a kid here, that kid's not going to be a citizen unless you file a lawsuit. But and the last thing I'll say real quick on this, because this thing has deeper issues, is that by the court saying that the lower courts are overstepping by filing nationwide injunctions, there's been nationwide injunctions issued on a bunch of Trump stuff, on cutting veterans benefits, firing federal workers, cutting aid, or not aid, but cutting grant programs to colleges, cutting grant programs for, you know, LGBTQ issues, for, you know, suicide prevention, for, you know, Violence Against Women Act, and all this kind of stuff like that. The courts have said this is unconstitutional, and they've enjoined Trump nationwide. So Trump has already said on Friday, when he had his little press conference, that they're going back in and they're going to reissue all of these executive orders again, because the court has already said these lower courts have overstepped. And so now what's going to have to happen is that if you are an LGBTQ person, for example, and there's some kind of program that they're stopping with whatever executive order he signs, you individually have to go in and sue to get this shit overturned for you. And anybody else who don't have the means to do it are just fucked.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, call me crazy. I don't know that somebody that's born to an illegal immigrant on U.S. soil should be considered a citizen, in my opinion.
Right. And I get it, right? A lot of Americans have that opinion, but that's not what our laws say.
I know. I'm
And
just
then
saying.
and then right, I hear you, but Steve, but think about this, right? The president of the United States has just changed the Constitution with an executive order. To change the Constitution the way that it's supposed to work, Congress has to pass a bill. That bill has to be passed by 3/4 of the Congress.
That's what I was asking. Yeah,
75% of the Congress has to pass it. Once 75% of the Congress passes it, it then has to be ratified by 75% of the states. So you need 38 states to say yes for this thing to become a constitutional amendment, which hasn't happened in decades because it's hard as fuck. Trump just said, no, stroke of the pen, Constitution change. And the courts just say, yeah, we're cool with that.
Well, all the Native Americans need to start kicking the white people out. Because just because they was born on U.S. so you don't make them citizens in Trump's eyes. Yeah, Wild Waters we're gonna be treading in soon. EJ, what's up with Jim Jones, Joe?
Somebody said he's the biggest senior citizen they know.
Call him a teen-year citizen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big fucking child, man. I mean, I understand the importance of making yourself relevant and clickbait, but it's fucking annoying at this point. You know, it's just annoying. And this is who this guy's been. He's been a troll for years now.
Jim said he's better than Nas, essentially, or more influential, not better. Because I don't think he thinks he's better than Nas. I don't think lyrically. I'm pretty sure he gets it. He said, and he even said he's just trying to go viral. Like that's the way to get paid nowadays.
Hmm.
So I get it, right? It's the clickbaity type stuff.
I I definitely think he has a point if you're talking about with the generation
Influence.
now. Yeah, especially the generation now, for sure.
I think
If I had to guess,
go ahead.
I was gonna say if I had to guess, Jim, especially with the way music is consumed now with streaming and people not necessarily buying albums, if I had to guess, Jim Jones got a hot single in the clip, and then he said this thing, and it's gone viral. The hope is Nas responds, right? But let's just say he doesn't. Nas is like, yo, like, just blurting some shit out doesn't change the facts on the ground, because we all know that is bullshit, right?
Right.
But even if he doesn't, we're talking about it on our podcast. I'm sure people have been talking about it all week or whatever. Now, once the stuff reaches its height, all of a sudden the single's going to drop or whatever, and then he makes some money off some streams.
Precisely.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Jim Jones, if you talk about our culturally, I think he does have more influence than us.
I agree.
Musically, you talk about rappers, you talk about, that side of things, Nas is far more influence. People want to be like Nas, you know what I mean? Like it's the Steph Curry, LeBron James type thing, right? When people are like, oh, Steph Curry's a better player than LeBron James. Steph Curry's not a better player than LeBron James. He probably definitely had more influence on the game than LeBron James and changing it for the way these kids look at the game moving forward. But as a player, LeBron James is a far better player. As an off court person, business person, LeBron James is eons beyond Steph in that light. And I think that to me is somewhat that comparison, right? When you have your Jim, and because I'm not gonna hold you, Jim, fashionably, he makes people wear wild ass stuff. Like the biker gang chains, the vests, the stuff like that. Like nobody was really rocking that stuff, the vamp life stuff. Like a lot of people, you know, they talk about him being a senior citizen and being like this old guy who just can't grow up. But when you talk about quote unquote Riz or swag, like it translates from the stuff that he does to definitely in New York, and then that kind of moves to other places. But lyrically, every other, like, when if you were making a 2K player, you have like that one bar for Jim that's at 100, and everything else is like a 3. Everything else, if you're comparing it to Nas, is, um, it doesn't translate, it doesn't track.
And I would add influence wise, culturally, whether it's negative or positive, much of it for Jim Jones, in my opinion, has been negative. But I mean, Nas has never, while he's always been a top five or top three consideration, depending on who you're talking to, as far as a lyricist, he hasn't really pushed the cultural needle at all. He's not one of those guys that wanted the superstardom. He, wasn't a fashion guy. He wasn't a guy that did a lot of interviews all the time. So with Jim Jones, if you talk about the last 20 years, just from that little run, glorifying the gang culture, to your point, the fashion, and then the reality TV stuff. He's been in these kids' lives for quite some time. So I would definitely say more recently he has a bigger influence on what that genre of music looks like today than Nas does.
But I also think that that's part of the point, right? Is that when he that's probably what he's talking about, like he's been on TV and
It's the only thing he can
food
talk
or clothes and stuff like that, because he's not talking musically. You know what I'm saying? Like us who listen to music, you guys more so even than me or whatever. And even I understand. I got Nas's early shit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's no comparison when you're talking about lyrically. And
Mm-hmm.
but Nas is not one of those people who's out there like that. Who's you're gonna see him at all of the games and big
Award
chain on
show.
the sideline somewhere, Coachella. At these movie premieres, you don't see Nas at what's the thing when people dress crazy in New York? The
Met Gala.
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 You don't see him at the Met Gala and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So for these young kids, to both y'all points, they're like, "Who's Nas?" You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But so for them, they're like, "Yeah, this dude. Of course he's one. I don't even know who Nas is or whatever." It's almost like remember when DMX died and people were like, "Did he have fans?" Like
Oh
that's how
yeah.
these young kids are probably with Nas. You know what I'm saying? But
Oh yeah.
like we know what time it is. That's some straight up BS.
Yeah. There was a debate. I think we missed it because we didn't pod, about the Game versus Jada.
Mm.
No. Look, let me put my cards on the table. I'm biased. You guys know that Jada is one of, if not my favorite rapper. So I'm super biased, but so I'm gonna say it's not even a question. But maybe y'all
It's,
can speak
it's,
more to it on
it's,
on an unbiased basis.
it's definitely debate worthy, and I say this because the game can rap. He is very good at lyrically rapping. Um, I think it's the other shit that he does that rub people the wrong way. All of the constant dumb shit, all the constant bullshit that he's gotten into. And I'll say this, and after they had this debate, Game has had to me, better albums, more entertaining albums than Jada as a solo artist. But Jada is definitely, when you talk about lyrics and you talk about skill and ability and just where he's come from, they forget that he's come from that era of Bad Boy where he was on tracks with Biggie. He was writing for Puff. He did go through all these things. So I just think he's been doing this at a higher clip for a longer time. But I do think, the game is very talented lyrically, and he makes some damn good music. So while I wouldn't say the game is better, I wouldn't say he ain't. I don't know that I could say you can compare the two, but he's very underrated in comparison to where people might have him.
I'm gonna I'm gonna put it in perspective. For me, the Game is LeBron James
Oh
in the
shit.
route that he got to greatness.
Oh shit.
Jada is Carmelo Anthony. And let me tell you what I mean by that.
Mm.
LeBron James, LeBron James is great. He had a great career um, in Cleveland before the decision and all of that, and an even better one after the decision, right? The game, when you talk about the documentary, which is probably his best album and probably one of the best hip hop albums of all time, is phenomenal. I find that to be like his super team because he had the production. He got in with Dre, right? Then after Dre, right, he leaves Dre, and now he's got Eminem in his corner and 50 Cent in his corner. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's that LeBron James aspect of it, where Jada was more the Carmelo Anthony aspect, where he was in Denver. He had to make his own way. He hit some big shots. He was the man. He was the guy. Jada for the Locks was the guy. Jada in Rough Riders, outside of DMX, was really the guy. You know what I mean? He had to be the guy to carry it. We see just how good Jada is. To me, Jada is a. If I had a choice today, I'm taking Jada over a lot of people, probably more so than anybody else. He's probably in my top. He's in my top five, and I know that's a stretch for some because people force Tupac into their top fives, and people force people into their top fives because historically they say that's what you're supposed to do. But you talk about Jada Kiss album wise, yeah, I agree with you, EJ. The game's albums are probably better. But again, he had the production of Dr. Dre. He had the production of, Eminem. He had 50 Cent in his corner. While Jada, sure, he had Diddy, but Diddy was, raping you records. It wasn't the Diddy, like if Diddy was putting his best foot forward like Dre was for the game, I think the Jada's albums might have been better, right? Then he goes over to Rough Riders. You got Swiss in them over there, but Swiss ain't Dre. Like let's call it what it is, right? I like Swiss. I like Swiss a lot. He's one of my best, yeah, one of my favorite producers. He's not Dre. You know what I mean? Um, and there was no 50 Cent. There was no 50 Cent run over there at Rough Riders to make Jada pop like that he could be associated with, which the game was with 50 Cent, in my opinion. Um, I just don't think there's a conversation to be had, yo. If I was building and if I was putting together 5 songs, 5 tracks, and you told me there had to be an R&B track, there had to be a solo track, there had to be, a historic hip hop track, I'm taking Jada Kiss over the game any day. If I needed someone to get beat up on camera, I'm taking the game because we saw that happen. Like the game ran up on this dude, recorded on cell phones before we even really knew what that was, and beat this dude's ass in Compton. So I'm taking the game if I need somebody to get beat up. But when you talk about music, it's got to be Jada for me.
Yeah, I
Like
think some of what you said is a little off chronologically. Um,
Disrespect.
but I think the game did the one project with Fifth and Dre, and then parted ways, and then Jada went to Interscope. But I mean, it just he to me he just hasn't been able to put together a fire album consistently. But I also think it was part of the times, like the Kiss the Game Goodbye. That a lot of that sound was the time. You know what I mean? Those playful club type beats. Then you had then you had no Kiss the Game, Kiss the Death, which also sonically matched those times. And I think he was trying to sell where you had to sell back then, right? You couldn't just be one trick lyricist all the time. You had to try to sell some party records during those times. So I think he was in a different era where Game came out in '05. Hip hop took a little turn to be a little bit more gangster, to be in his lane. So I think he benefited from that. But I mean, even as time has gone by, Jada had a pretty decent album more recently. But I think you guys are both right in the sense Jada's a legendary tier above the game.
I mean, I hear what y'all saying. I guess my problem with kind of what with Steve's comparison of like LeBron Carmelo situation is if you ask Steve to do his top five, either number one or two, I'm not sure how he would put it, is going to be Big. And Big doesn't have a huge body of work, you know what I mean? But we're able to say, you look at the lyricism, and that's enough. And so, like, when you look at Jada over the game, like, to me, I feel like the lyricism should be enough, you know,
The
because
only difference in that argument is that Big's two albums are classics. You won't find the majority of people that'll say Jada's albums were classics. That's the difference in that argument.
The thing about I think also with Kiss, right? You talked about Kiss Again Goodbye, EJ in '01 when it came out. Here's the thing about Jada. He was up against juggernauts. Like that time of music where he was in, his prime, he was up against the Jay-Z's, he was up against the 50s, he was against a lot of studs. And not only that, not only that, he's a New York rapper where New York rap, you had Mobb Deep, you had Capone Noriega, you had all of these people that were out at that time, Wu-Tang. Game was coming from the West, and there was really nobody holding the West at that point, right? You had your Snoop and your Dre era that ran its course, but now you got this new sound, and this guy is representing a whole coast, right? Which I think is similar to what we're seeing today with Kendrick. Like, don't get me wrong, I think Kendrick is okay. He's pretty nice, but if he was representing an area that had more people like him, I don't know that he would be as big in that area. He's representing California, and there's just nobody coming out of Cali that's making that kind of noise. So he's got to carry a whole coast. And so now he's got everything. He's that whole sound. He's created that sound, and everybody's like, oh, this is a different sound. I think the game had that same type of thing. Snoop had the same type of thing when he came in the game. If you think about it, outside of Murder Was the Case, or I'm sorry, Doggy Style.
Doggy Style.
Yeah, outside of Doggy Style from a Snoop album, I don't know. I don't know, right? But I do think Jadakiss is probably the best cameo rapper of all time.
I was just gonna bring that. I was just gonna talk about how Jada also got a bunch of features on how, like, shit. Jada got a feature on a Lil Jon and the East Side Boys album. That shit is fire. You know what I'm saying?
Just features for days.
So
the only feature I would say that Jadakiss took an L on would be the Maya joint. The Best of Me, because his shit was fire. It was fire. It just got stepped on when Jay came out with his version. I'm focused, man. Oh, forget about it. Nobody even remembers Jada's shit. And Jada's shit is fire on that track. Like, it got stepped on by a bigger giant.
Yeah.
Diddy, what do you guys think about Diddy while we're in the kind of music space? Diddy, his defense team decided not to call any witnesses to the stand. They're just going off of.
The other argument was there was nobody willing to stand for Diddy.
I mean, you could have brought character witnesses. Like, I'm sure he had character witnesses and stuff like that.
No, that's the point. They saying nobody wants to speak up for this dude.
Yeah, typically when you see a defense not call any witnesses, like, lawyers will tell you one of two things is happening. Either, to EJ's point, they don't have anybody that's willing to speak for them. Now, they could subpoena these people and force them to come to the stand. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, like, how does that look if you got to force me to come say stuff about you? You know?
Yeah, it's my meds.
Right. And then the other argument would be that they feel like the prosecutors haven't met their burden. So why do we want to, we already feel like they didn't do enough. So why do we want to, prolong this thing? Let's go ahead and get it to the jury so they can acquit them. You know what I'm saying? Right. From lawyer, I haven't followed. You guys know I don't really follow the trial like that. I see, like, the big headlines, but other than that, I don't really know what's happening on day to day. But I've seen some lawyers react to the trial now that it's over who have followed it, and almost all of them have said that he's going to jail. And so, again, that would be my thought, but this is based on listening to other people's opinion because I haven't followed it on my own to have my own, like, opinion on it. But what I think Diddy probably has made a mistake in doing is, and I don't think it's necessarily a mistake, because I think you can do this at any time or whatever. I honestly see this trial is going to be over. Diddy is going to get found guilty, and he's going to say he's going to appeal and all this kind of stuff like that. And then magically, he's going to decide that a good investment for him would probably be to buy some Trump meme coins, or some some DJT stock or something like that. And then a couple months will go by, and all of a sudden he's going to hear that the president is saying he thinks he's being railroaded, and he's going to get a pardon. Even if he don't get a straight up pardon, maybe he just get a commutation, which is, same effect. Commutation just means that we say sentence served, time served. He still got the guilty verdict on his books, but he's out of jail. You know what I mean? Or he gets a pardon, just gets everything thrown out completely. But I see that that's going to be the route from him. I'm actually surprised that either him or his sons or somebody like on his team haven't already started like reaching out to Trump, like at least publicly, like saying stuff to get this thing on Trump's radar, at least. So
Well,
we'll see.
there's also the pettiness in the fact that Diddy at some point, I don't know if he thought he was gonna be able to fly under the radar forever. He started talking pretty crazy about Trump more recently, if you remember. So Donnie T might not forget that.
I don't think that
Might not.
matters.
I don't
Trump's
know.
corrupt. All he
So
all he cares about is green.
money, yeah. I don't think they would reach out publicly, only because some might see that as an admission of guilt, right? Like if you're already saying, "Yo, can we get a pardon? We need you
No,
to
I don't mean it
pardon."
that way, Steve.
Oh, I
What
see what
they're
you're saying.
gonna do is like
Oh, can we partner on a
when they hold a
business
press
venture?
conference. No, when they hold the press conference after the guilty verdict, right? That I'm assuming it's gonna come. At some point, they say this man has been railroaded by a justice system that is picking and choosing who they want to go after. This is selective prosecution that was implemented under the, wait for it, Biden administration, right? Just like they did President Trump, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Now, then these political reporters, because all they care about is clicks and stuff, when they go to the next Donald Trump press availability, which is daily, every time he walks out to the helicopter, he takes questions, and they say, lawyers for Diddy say he's being railroaded the same way that the Biden Justice Department did you. What are your thoughts on that? And then he's going to say, I haven't looked at it very closely, but I'm hearing things. People are saying, I don't know. I have to look at it more closely. I don't know. And then like a week goes by, and all of a sudden Diddy gets pardoned because he's looked at it and realized that this guy's got railroaded.
Do you think so? Here's where I think the problem is, right? I think that the prosecutors came out and they just made him out to look like a freak. Like from the beginning, from the beginning of it. Baby oil, telling us about the baby oil as part of the raids. Like the stuff like that that was being highlighted and made public makes this seem like it's just a smear campaign, right? Don't get me wrong, the stuff he did is absolutely disgusting. But I think you have to separate that from the parody stuff. Like it almost looked like a parody uh trial, because they're talking about, oh, guess what? Now we got the male escorts that came out, and guess what? Did he let him come on his chest? Like, you know what I mean? Or he would tell him to come on the chick, and the chick had to walk into the next room and come see him. Like, these are things that, like, how does that lead to racketeering? You know what I'm saying? You're talking about kidnapping, racketeering, like sex trafficking, maybe, right? But you don't need the specifics of it. You like if I'm the prosecutor, I don't know that I'm asking the witness I called to talk about that or in that detail of it. Like it just seemed like they were trying to smear his name. On the flip side, they also went for life
Rico.
sentences. Rico, right? And some of this stuff carry life sentences. So you got people that are going to be sitting on this jury, and you're asking them to send somebody who's been in the public eye for a very long time away for life because he liked to be nasty? Because he's a freak in the bedroom? Because there's a whole lot more to it. But what sticks out most to people? What made the biggest headlines? The biggest headlines was the freaky stuff. The biggest headlines wasn't that he took Kid Cudi and hung him off of a balcony, or blew his car up, or broke into his house and stole his Christmas gifts for his family. Those weren't the headlines that you saw. The headlines you saw was Diddy was a freak. Diddy was flying in male escorts. Guess what? What does that mean? Oh, is he gay? Diddy was having females go have sex with these male escorts, and then they had to come to him in the other bedroom while they were still covered in semen, and it had to be warm, like stuff like that were headlines that, to me, you're not making a RICO case. Like, you can't send, like, I don't feel like, this is enough to send somebody away, for life, in my opinion. And so I feel like his defense attorneys are thinking, now they are going to present exhibits, right? They're not going to have witnesses, but they are going to have exhibits. So basically, different pieces of evidence and things like that they feel. And the thing about it is, an exhibit, no one can ask it questions, right? You can't ask an exhibit questions. So there's no two-way dialogue in that, and there's no way to disprove or prove that. It's what you say is being seen here, and then you ask a question. You can kind of lead somebody's idea to think, in this picture or in this testimony, this person said blah 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 blah. Do you think this makes blah blah blah, right? And there's no response. So I think that they have some tactic there. I don't know, man. I think that there's a potential that he ends up with like a hung jury somewhere along the lines. And I do agree with you though, VP, 100%. And EJ, I think both of you guys said this. If he is found guilty and he ends up in jail, he's getting pardoned or his sentence commuted or something like that. Because remember, in all those raids, they made these big deals about all these tapes, right? These videotapes of the freak offs and all the stuff that happened. You didn't hear anything about these videotapes through the trial. Very minimal about them. So to me, it sounds like maybe they raided just to get those tapes out because there might have been some big people on those tapes and they couldn't chance that getting out. And so now that those tapes were burned or, removed, now Trump can feel like, well, kind of saved my name there. That was a close one. Let me get this guy out of here, because if he's in jail, what stops him from talking at that point? If Trump was part of any of that stuff.
A comedian.
And one thing I want to say real quick, EJ.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I want to say real quick, Stephen, and you said this multiple times in what you just said, is a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is coming from the media. It's not coming from prosecutors. Like, I literally just pulled up the press release from the Southern District of New York, the prosecutors that are bringing this case. It doesn't mention anything about baby oil or anything like that. A lot of this stuff is the media getting it just from documents that are submitted on the public record to the court that says this is an inventory of everything we took from the house or whatever, So people are seeing it like, oh, they had, 6,000 gallons of baby oil, like, and all this crazy shit, you know what I'm saying? And so a lot of that stuff, you got from the media and not necessarily prosecutors. I'm not saying that means that prosecutors brought an airtight case or anything like that. It's not that I'm taking their side, but I just want to make that distinction that the stuff that's getting overblown, to your point about all the sexual stuff, and none of the stuff that would lead somebody to think that maybe something that lends itself towards RICO happened, is all coming from the media.
There's somebody, I can't remember who the comedian was, but they said Diddy's the only nigga to sit on trial for RICO by himself.
Word. And that's that's another thing.
I was crying.
By letter of the law, have they proven a RICO?
You got to have a criminal organization, and one of the most involved people in any of these matters was Cassie, who they gave him immunity to. So,
Ta-da!
Which is, in a criminal organization, when they're taking down the organization, they might have a couple people that snitch, but they still got to go to jail.
Right.
So
that's not necessarily true. I mean, we see hitmen get immunity and shit like that all the time.
No, they still go to jail. No, they still went to jail. Like Sammy the Bull, he still did time. He just didn't do as much time.
But what's his name? Ray Liotta from Goodfellas. He got immunity.
Henry Hill. He didn't. He did time. He still did time. He
Yeah, he
still did
served
that
time
time.
for stuff later, but he initially he got immunity on all the initial gangster stuff. He got immunity, and while he was on witness protection, he got arrested again, and that's when he
Yeah.
went to jail.
Yeah, no, but he still did time. He
So
still did time.
does the criminal organization only is that only Cassie and Diddy then, or is that what we're saying? Because
I mean, it
they
could
haven't
be.
brought charges on anybody else, right? And or maybe the rest of that group are those powerful people that were on those tapes. And once he's
Because I
out of
mean,
there,
they interviewed a guy. They interviewed a literal prostitute. They used him as a witness.
hmm
This guy engaged in illegal prostitution in the state of New York,
hmm
and no one is he's not getting charged. So I mean,
I mean, but ask yourself, right? They're talking some of the stuff they're talking about with Diddy happened years ago. So did whatever happened with that guy is it still within the statute of limitations? You got to contend with that as well.
but I mean, if that is the case, then how are we now using that as ammunition to say he had a criminal enterprise of sex trafficking?
Well, they can use old stuff. So, like in Trump's case with the business fraud, right? They were using stuff that showed fraudulent records back from like 2011, 2012. The statute of
I
limitations
mean,
on that stuff long past, but they used it to show a pattern of corruption.
yeah, I mean, but to your point, what is the statute of limitations on all of this? If you're talking about this person, I can see if you were talking about minors and children. We're talking about this person was a sex worker who was complicit in illegal activities. So we're talking about a RICO charge. Is this person not now a part of his criminal organization after he's been a participant with Diddy and Cassie for 20 plus times? If,
I mean, it's
if
possible, but all I'm saying, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that there's other
No,
mitigating factors
I'm just saying,
potentially.
asking that question. I'm just saying, if I had a criminal organization, right, and this guy was a piece of that criminal activity for X amount of years, to me, that would make him a part of my organization.
True, but I guess with Diddy, what if we had a lawyer that we could talk to, they probably would tell us something along the lines of, if this guy stopped participating, I don't know if you said it was a guy or not, the sex worker, but if this guy stopped being a part of it some years ago, that starts the clock on the statute of limitations, and so maybe they passed it to be able to be brought into the RICO, or
I
maybe they
don't know.
gave him a deal, a non-prosecution deal, immunity, who knows or whatever, you know what I mean? And this
And
is
I mean,
something that these lawyers would have brought out at trial when they, when it was their turn to question this guy. Were you promised anything to come testify against my client or whatever? You know what I mean?
right,
So
right. Yeah, we don't know the. I don't think we know the intricate details of what they asked him during cross. But the other thing, this guy has been going on the internet taking interviews and divulging information. So it's like
Mhm.
this whole shit is a mess. It just and the crazy thing to me that I don't understand the prosecution, and maybe because it's not in their jurisdiction, maybe because other shit going on. But the whole shit with Keefe D and the redacted stuff that's been unredacted, all of the information that's out there about Diddy's involvement with hiring gang members to play as the bodyguard who essentially had involvement with the killing of Tupac. To me, that would have been a angle to go. If you want to prove this guy to be some criminal mastermind, which I think in all of those aspects he always was and always is. But I didn't understand why none of that has been discussed. To what we know thus far. But I don't know.
I
right,
think some of
Maybe
that
and
stuff is statute of limitations or like the Tupac stuff. Like,
no,
how,
because everything Nevada is bringing trying to bring Keefe D into that now because they found the murder weapon at this dude's house.
mm,
So that whole shit is a mess. He had Queen's immunity at some point, and because he kept fucking up and doing wild shit, other things came out, and then he got his house raided for drugs. They find the murder weapon supposedly. So there's all type of shit out there that while that case is still ongoing, if I'm the prosecutor, I have access to more information about this shit. Why not bring it to light? It just doesn't make sense to me.
And real quick, I know we're gonna be getting out of here soon. Not sorry to change the subject. We got a little bit of breaking news here. LeBron's agent and friend Rich Paul told ESPN that LeBron will be back next season. He's opting into his $52.6 million player option. He
Shocker.
told
All
ESPN
right.
that LeBron knows the Lakers are building for the future, but he values a realistic chance at winning it all. So he will be back next year.
When they say next season, do they mean this season or next season?
This coming season.
Oh, well, we knew that. He's been posting videos of him in the gym.
Yeah, I know, but nothing was
I,
official.
what, do you think that LeBron is going to announce his farewell tour when it comes? Asking you guys
Yeah,
honestly.
I
I hope
honestly
he
think
does.
so. I think he saw what the treatment Kobe got, like in
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
those like last games and everybody doing the tributes and stuff like that. And I think he probably wants that for himself, given the stature that he had. But I don't think he would do it like at the beginning of the year. I think it'll be one of those kind of let's
Mid-year
see where
type
we
deals.
are by like
March.
let's see where we are by like the All-Star break.
Yeah.
And if it looks like this season is not gonna happen, then I announce that this is I'm hanging it up, and then spend the rest of the year doing that kind of farewell tour.
I think Silver and them will have to force him to make it in the beginning of the season. They absolutely have to. They got to get everything else they can get out of this guy. Because if they announce it before the season, ticket sales will skyrocket across America. Every game in every shitty season, every shitty city, those tickets will skyrocket every time the Lakers come to town. I mean, they're high now, right, when the Lakers come, but even
I,
then, it's going to be crazy.
I'm gonna give you guys a wild take, and you can mark this down. LeBron James is playing 2 more seasons. He's playing this season, and he's gonna play next season. And next season might be his farewell tour, but he's definitely playing next season because this season coming, Bryce will be doing his first year in Arizona. After that first year, he can become eligible for the NBA draft.
One and done.
And so that year after, when he makes the NBA, because he will make the NBA, he's far better than Bronny. It looks like it today on paper and everything we've seen. Bigger, stronger, faster, better shooter. He's got a little bit of everything. He looks better. Um, and if he stays healthy, obviously, and looks good at Arizona, which I think he will, he's gonna come out. And LeBron is gonna be able to say, both of my son, myself, we're the first. I'm the first one. Produced 2 sons that played in the league. Well, no, I'm lying because Del Curry's got that. Um, but if he can figure a way to get all 3 of them on the same team, oh, forget about it. Which, from a father standpoint, commendable, 100% commendable. I can't take anything from him for doing that, and I hope he does. I'd love to see that.
Yeah,
But I think he'll be here this year and next year. Worst case, he'll be able to say I played in the league with both of my sons at the same time. That'll be a first. We haven't seen that, and that would be pretty
I
good.
can see that. I can see that.
The only thing
But
stopping him is Father Time.
what
Yeah,
that means to me today is I need to go get some Orlando Magic season tickets so that when the farewell tour comes, I'm gonna make some money on that.
yeah. But
Hopefully,
I don't know. To your point, real quick, EJ, on Silver forcing them, like LeBron has long since saw himself as being bigger than Silver.
For
You
sure.
literally see him. So I don't think Silver's going to be able to. Silver may come to him and say, "Hey, we would like you to do this." LeBron's gonna
Yeah,
he
and that's more where I was leaning along the lines like, hey, I ain't asking you for nothing since I've been in this motherfucker, man. I need you on this one, bro. You gotta do it for me, big dog.
and I think
Got
LeBron
to.
would do it because Silver was kind of in his corner when LeBron did that whole thing when in the bubble when they talked about justice for us, right? For police
yeah
brutality. Silver didn't give him a hard time. He'd let him kind of run that campaign, let him go overseas and represent the United
And,
States,
and,
which
and we
again,
forget Silver was he worked under old boy before, so I mean, there's a lot of
yeah
history.
he was the number 2 under Stern.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of history between them. So
So I think LeBron would do that. Not only do I think he would do it because of the respect for the game and respect for Silver, but to your point, VP, he saw what Kobe um received right in his farewell tour, and as much as we give LeBron a hard time, he deserves it. Like he would
Yeah,
deserve that kind of going to the different stadiums, getting appreciated. He's carried the NBA as the face of the league for a long time.
This is gonna be year 23.
23 years.
This coming
Yeah,
season.
23 years.
That's
yeah,
fucking. That's
Dang.
insane. Yeah.
he fully deserves it, and he likes the attention. Like he's
Yeah.
walking around right now with Beijing on his beard. He looks absolutely crazy. Like zing it, right? Because I zing my shit at times too, but you gotta zing it and you gotta wash it out quick enough. Like if you wait too long, if you Beijing it and you go to the bathroom and you start taking a shit and you forget because you're on your phone, now your shit looks like shoe polish. And I think that's what happened with LeBron. I think he probably went, started taking a shit, forgot to wash it out, was like, oh, it'll be okay. Washed it out. It's too dark. There ain't nothing you can do now because if you shave it too low, now your skin is bleached. Like, yeah. Next time around, just make sure you wash it out quick enough, Brown. 12, 13 minutes is long enough with the Xing. Get that done. Take it from me. I've done it before. Last thing I'll say about the Diddy thing, Monday they get a jury's supposed to get instructions on Monday, and they'll start to deliberate this coming week. So depending how quickly it moves, we could get something this week by the 4th of July, or who knows, it could run on for quite some time. Depends on whether or not he was able to pay one of them off.
Before we break,
I'm taking payola, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's not gloss over that
100%.
potential too. Because what's the number? Let me ask y'all, what's the number that it would take for you to risk on this type of case being the juror that hangs the jury for a dollar amount?
I mean, for me, I feel like I'm financially savvy enough to where if you gave me $1 million, I could turn it around. Because I'm definitely leaving New York. Because you can't do shit with $1 million in New York. But I feel like I could do enough with that. But given that your life is on the line and you're a billionaire,
right?
While I'd be willing to accept $1 million, I'm going to need at minimum 5.
Yeah. Just go ahead and sign over that Miami house to me real quick, and I'll go ahead and sell it, and we'll call it even.
Well, how many jurors is he buying off? Is it just one or
only
two?
Need one.
Or
you only need one.
You only need the one.
Yeah,
and maybe he tries multiples just in case, right? Backup plan. But
that's what I was thinking. Like,
so VP, what's
the number
the
starts to get a little
consequence
high.
if you get caught on something like that? Not for him, because for him he'll get charges, but as a juror,
you going to prison.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that
Going
number,
to federal prison easily.
Yeah,
easily.
Oh.
Only thing you could do at that point if you got caught was to say you feared for your life, but
especially this type of case.
Yeah, so only thing you can say.
But jurors, that it's all all of it depends on like how you was like, oh, give me the house, like that's too that's too easy to run down. You know what I mean? I need some cash. But for them, they don't have to give any reason to why they voted the way they voted. They can just simply say that the prosecution didn't prove their case, in my opinion. So and that's why at the end, like when you have hung juries, that's what they're called. Oh, okay. When that happens, the prosecution usually will ask the judge to poll the jury, and they'll ask like to see who all voted like which way, so they can see, because they want to know, like, we got 12 people on the jury. Was this like 5 voted to acquit and the other 7 voted for guilty, or is it just one? Because that may tell them if it's just one, we probably just we can bring this case again. You know what I mean? But if it's like multiple, there's something wrong that we might not be able to win this, and so we decide not to bring it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if he were going to do something like that, he probably would need to do multiple. But but again, sometimes it takes just one, and the prosecutors may say we've had our fill and we're not going to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite movies of all time is 12 Angry Men. And
I love that movie. Great film.
Perfect example. The original,
not the remake.
The original with Fonda. Yeah. But you guys probably had to set me up 500, at least $500,000 in an offshore account somewhere.
Is it?
Yeah.
You a cheap bitch.
I mean, I don't know how much money this motherfucker. And then they already. How much liquid does he really have right now? They already got eyes on his funds. I don't know. I I don't know. It's kind of tough because everything, all his books are open right now. So I don't know where you gonna get the money from.
Runaway Jury is one of my favorite movies when we talk about this
Yeah, I
type
like
of
that
thing.
movie too.
Mm.
Got a
For
rerun recently when Hoffman died.
Dustin Hoffman died?
Gene Hoffman. That's not his name. Gene Hoffman.
Gene Hackman,
Gene
Gene
Hackman.
Hackman. There you go.
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ,
Shit. Sorry.
this
Okay.
guy's
Because
he's
I was
killed
gonna say,
another person.
you just be killing people, dog.
Yo, yo, this
Nigga,
dude killed
I was
another
about to be
person.
mad. I was gonna say, how do I not know Dustin Hoffman? Like, I like Dustin Hoffman a lot. For me not to know that,
Killed another
yeah,
one.
3.5 for me, yo. I need 3.5 to take that risk.
He ain't got it though. I mean, he does not have it right now.
Somebody got it. You better
Somebody, yeah.
find it. Look, if it means saving
Somebody
your
could find me something.
if it means you don't go to jail for life, I'm sure all these rich
Yeah.
friends you got, you could find 3.5.
You
Right.
heard him telling his son, man, get Hove on the line. Get Hove on the line. Hove said, nah, brother, I'm
Yeah.
about to do the Super Bowl next year.
I was
You
gonna
gotta you
say
gotta be
Jay rumored
you
for the
gotta be
Super
like,
Bowl. Y'all like it? I know y'all want white
yeah,
people. Y'all been saying for the last year y'all want more white people, but
I'm cool with it. I just think they need to switch it up. Like you can't just have all hip hop, like back to back to back to back to back to back. Like the same thing that we were complaining about. The NFL, y'all know y'all got black fans, right? Like, when they were doing all Guns and Roses and Sting and all that kind of shit like that, like let the
nah,
pendulum swing a little bit.
we here, dog. I don't want no swing. Pause. We here. We give us something. Y'all got everything else, including police brutality. I'll take the Super Bowl. I think if Jay does it, I would like to see if Jay does it. I would like him to do like Jay and Friends, as many as possible in whatever time limit he has. And I think in that case, you can sneak in some whites. You can sneak in a Blink
Lincoln
182
Park.
or Lincoln Park. I'm sorry, I said Blink
Yeah.
182. Yeah, you can
Hmm.
sneak in a Lincoln Park to get your white, base in there a little bit. But I hope
That'd
he
be
gets
dope.
it. I would love to see him perform at the same Super Bowl the Cowboys win.
Yeah, I would like to see Jay. I mean, it'll be cool. Like I mean, the thing with him is like what does he do? You know what I mean? Like this dude got 600 albums, a million features. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like picking the
And
the
he,
the, the
he
tracks
not
is
gonna
gonna be
bring
insane.
he not gonna bring Ye out. So I mean, you can eliminate most of that Ye catalog.
Well, I don't even mean the Ye stuff. I could imagine him.
Well, he would have to do niggas in Paris. Like he just came out and did that in Paris at Beyonce's tour. So that's not out the now he didn't bring Ye out, but I think he would do it. He would probably do a
Yeah,
lot of them big joints.
like
Pharrell
Can't
would
do the
I
probably
R
could
be there.
can't do the R. Kelly joints.
like I could imagine him doing that one line where he said it's something like he
I'm not
said
a
something about
businessman.
no, not that one, not that one. When he said something about like Blink's been trying to do something his whole career. As long as I'm alive, he's a
Bleak.
millionaire. And then like bring
Yeah.
out Memphis Bleak or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, so I mean, I know a lot of people watching might be like, who the fuck is that?
He not gonna. I could tell you one thing he's not gonna do is give Bleak time at the Super Bowl. Bleak has said it, and it sounds so crazy. He's like, I love Jay for everything he's done, but he's really a shitty friend. Like, I can't even get Beyonce tickets. I can't get shit from this guy, but he like, I'm okay with that because I wouldn't have been
Mm.
shit. I don't see. I think
Hey, he
that's the
rich
one
forever.
thing.
He
Yeah,
rich
that's the
forever.
one thing I
You
can
could
count
be a
on.
shitty
Bleak
friend
is
to me
not
if I'm
coming
rich
out.
forever.
That's the one thing I can count on. Bleak
Yeah,
is not going to come out.
exactly, Steve.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
no,
even need
no
to
question.
talk to you if you keep the bank account fat, dog. You don't even got to text
Right.
me, yo.
As
And
long as the
Bleak,
check
I mean,
clears.
he's gotten Bleak executive positions. Like Bleak was, executive music creator in so many spaces because of Jay. But that's the
Yeah,
one thing I'm sure of. He will not bring Bleak out on stage based on the way Bleak talks about their relationship. I think that's the one thing we can count on.
yeah.
Mm.
Still a little bro. All right, man. I think we covered a lot. Um, yo, I started watching that Menendez brother shit on Netflix. That shit's crazy. Y'all should watch
Mm.
that.
How many different shits do they have?
Yeah, but this new one is crazy, yo. This new one is wild. Them
How
boys are
crazy is
bugging.
how crazy is it than what we've seen already from these motherfuckers?
Yeah.
These
Well, we know
motherfuckers
they killed their
sat
parents
in a
before.
limo and sat there and was like, I think we should kill mom and dad. I I need a new suit. They said no. Like, what do we? I don't. What's up with these guys? I don't know.
That's
That
They
shit is
crazy.
nuts.
That shit's wild, yo. But it was
yeah.
funny.
Yo,
Not
real
funny.
quick for me, I watched Sinners, yo. That shit was good. I liked it a lot.
Was it? I'm so mad I didn't get
Aha,
to see it in the movies, man.
aha. I like it. I like what I'm
Where'd you
hearing.
watch it? Wait, was it
We
somewhere
did
illegal?
Amazon.
Oh, it's
No,
on
we did
Amazon?
Amazon. Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. You know
Okay.
it's not free. You got to pay for it. You can it's either like $19 to rent it or
Hmm.
$24 to buy it.
Hmm.
I'm not renting something I'm gonna fall asleep on.
Well, when you rent it,
I
you
fall
get like
asleep
on
on
Amazon.
everything.
When you rent it, you get 30 days to actually start it, and then once you start it, you have it for 48 hours from the time you start it. So if
Okay,
you fall
maybe
asleep, you got 48 hours to rewatch.
I'm sure I could find it somewhere else, right, EJ?
I've heard that may be an option.
Yeah, but I thought it was good, man. I thought it was really good. Cougar did his thing.
EJ, you still in a relationship right now? Oh
Yeah, I
yeah, you
just
still
told
on
you
the 4th of
this
July.
guy, this fucking guy,
All right, well, I guess it's not time for me to plan a trip up there then.
this fucking guy.
You ain't gonna be able to come outside. I'm gonna have to hit
This,
up Ja. I'm gonna plan a trip and go chill with Ja because
you know he's married, right?
yeah, but he was outside when I was there.
Yeah,
Ja don't care, yo.
Yo.
He a wild boy, man. All right, man. Anything pressing, EJ? You've been watching?
Man, what is there anything I could think of? There's something and I just can't think about it right now. Oh, Ironheart just started for you Marvel fans. Ironheart
I gotta check that out.
just came out. The first episode was complete ass to me, but two and three became better. So I'm intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued.
And
Rolling
Squid
it
Game
out
just started
where,
too.
yeah, and they're rolling it out where they released the first three episodes in one day, and the next three final episodes supposedly are coming out this week. So weird kind of rollout, but at least you don't have to wait week to week. But I
Yeah,
like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Watch the Menendez joint, man. That shit's crazy. I was watching something else too, but I can't remember what it is, and I don't have my phone with me. So, but yeah, that Menendez shit crazy. I watched almost all of it. Wild. And the Shaq shit. I don't think you were here, VP. The Shaq shit on Netflix is dope. You should check that out.
okay. The Reebok shit, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think you would like that. You'd appreciate it. I think that's it. Um, yeah, that's good. So, VP, if you can get us out of here. Oh,
Excuse me.
oh,
You said that like right when I started yawning.
oh.
I was caught in the middle of it. But hey, we definitely appreciate everybody for rocking with us for this week's episode of the Casperly Podcast. Like we always say, make that phone call, send a text message, reach out to folks, let them know how you're feeling. You never know what's going on with people. Tomorrow's not promised to anybody, so reach out to your people and let them know you love them, let them know you care about them. I'm pretty sure they'd love to hear from you, and you'll feel good about doing it too. Personally, I had one of my homeboys from Marines just randomly hit me up yesterday. And just a quick check-in, 10, 15 minutes or whatever. It was good hearing from him. So, so definitely reach out to your people, man.
NVIDIA.
And huh?
I said shout out to NVIDIA.
Oh, definitely salute to them. The way my account set up, I'm really liking it.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, man, you can definitely follow us on all podcasting platforms by searching at Casworthy. You can also follow us on any of our social media by searching at Castworthy. On Instagram is at Castworthy_podcast. While you're there, you can leave us a like, subscribe, follow, tell a friend, help us grow the audience. We really appreciate it. And with that being said, we will see you guys next week with another fresh episode of the Castworthy Podcast. Until then, we out. We love you. Peace.